Hello, fabulous friends and fans. Welcome to this special series of videos on natal planets conjunct the nodes and transiting planets conjunct the nodes. Originally, when I created these videos, they ended up being over an hour long, where I went through the sky and talked about each of the planets. Now, what I've done is I've edited these videos down so that you can get right to the information that you want. Look at the exact planet that you want. I want to thank you so much for watching, and thank you especially for the suggestions that you guys give me on the videos that you want to see in the YouTube comments, on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and of course my website, nadiyashah.com. Please do keep those questions, suggestions, interactions, and positive energy coming. It really does mean so much to me. And if you like these videos, please share them. And of course, let me know online. Enjoy. Transiting Saturn conjunct the North Node or the South Node. Now, this is so important. This is so huge because this happens once every 28.5 years and always represents some big turning point in life. And important changes in life as well. And a lot of times it's not really anything that we're working with in terms of like energies that we're working with, what we're trying to maximize. The only thing I say to people when I see something like this coming is I say, be busy, be out and about to maximize the advantages that are possible to you at this time, because it really is about aligning yourself with a higher vision for your life. When Saturn comes along and conjuncts the nodes, once every 28.5 years, you get a visit to the South Node, and once every 28.5 years to the North Node. So basically, they're 14 years apart. And usually, you get 3 visits, usually. So Saturn usually will retrograde back and forth over the part of the zodiac, over the same part of the zodiac. Sometimes you might only get 1 visit, but most of the times you will at least get 3 because it is part of a larger lesson and larger life changes that are taking place for you. Saturn conjunct the South Node is huge. It is recognizing what needs to end if we are going to move towards maturity and adulthood. And it tends to represent a time that we look back on and say, wow, I really grew up at that time. I left the kid behind. And this can be a great thing. This can be a really good thing. This is about looking at reality in the face and acknowledging where you are and understanding where maybe you have been kidding yourself. A lot depends on how it is that you deal with your natal Saturn. So if your natal Saturn is positively aspected all over the place in your natal chart, then chances are when this time comes along, it's sort of like a natural evolution. You're already used to using this energy wisely. And so you understand, okay, yeah, that needs to end. And, you know, I'm really ready to move in a direction of greater maturity. But in order to do that, I've got to leave this part of where I've been or my identity or behind. Close a chapter of my life. And it does tend to denote the closing of a major chapter of life. If you have not been dealing with your Saturn energy very wisely, for example, if you haven't had your Saturn return yet and Saturn is really difficultly aspected in your natal chart, when I look at something like that, then Saturn conjunct the South Node it is a time of transition, but it can denote some pain, and especially pain in endings as well. So I've seen people who haven't really dealt with their Saturn very well really understand that reality is a bitter pill and that it's not going to be all that they thought it was going to be, and that's actually quite good. That's actually quite healthy. Saturn ultimately is about honoring our incarnation. We are incarnated for a reason, and there are specific lessons in the Earth school that, when embraced, help us tremendously to gain a sense of self-respect, and that there are some freedoms that come through responsibility and not from responsibility. And so that is Saturn conjunct the South Node, makes us face all those things. And if we are one person who hasn't been so ready to embrace reality and take an honest stock of our lives, then this can be a difficult transition because it really is the reality pill, the wake-up call, really. But it leads to great changes. I've seen it again and again. People leave behind a set of friends that they know are not good for them, and instead decide that, you know what, that I'm not going to hang out with those people anymore because they're not really very good for me, and move into a different circle. I've seen people, get clean, get sober under this. Is very common, actually, if there's any kind of substances involved that get in the way of really walking a path towards self-respect, when that is the case, rather. I've seen people really change jobs as well if they've been in a job that really hasn't suited who they really are, what it is, not just what it is that they really want to do, but it doesn't resonate. There's no connect there in terms of they've just been doing it, they've been going through the motions. This tends to mark a time when they say, you know what, this isn't really honoring this incarnation, because we're incarnated, we have a finite amount of time in this incarnation, and you going day in and day out doing something that you don't want to be doing is also a way that we don't honor the incarnation. And this can also be a time when we realize what our responsibilities are and where we've been living in a way that has not been honoring our responsibilities. So if before this, if it was a time when we allowed other people to take care of us, or, we got into a relationship based on what other person's financial situation was or the status that they granted, this could be a time when that status changes, and thereby something changes for us as well, where we have to get honest about what really matters. So lots of things tend to shift in very important, notable ways that we see as turning points in life. Saturn conjunct the North Node is great. I mean, it is just great. I'm not saying it's easy necessarily. Saturn is not really an easy energy per se, but regardless of how Saturn is aspected in your chart, it is such an important energy, because Saturn conjunct the North Node is the opening of a doorway from which new people carrying karmic blessings enter. And this is about moving us into a position of authority. This is when we are granted opportunities that, if we trust, will lead to us establishing ourselves as authority figures at some point, and really lead us towards marked, clear success in the fullness of time. This is where the universe says you need to go this way if you're going to build a legacy that you can be proud of. This is also where we tend to attract people as well, as I said, carrying karmic blessings. And they tend to be people who represent a more stable and secure future. And so when I see this coming up, if a person tells me they're single, I say get out and about. Go to professional types of events with this, because you want to be out and about with people who in some way represent, whether it's your industry. And, by professional, I don't mean that it has to be stuffy, right? I mean, if, for example, if you're an astrologer, go to more astrology events, because this is where you're going to meet people who figure prominently in you doing what it is that you've been called to do in this life. You honoring your North Node, you moving in the direction that your soul desires to go in this lifetime. And so you'll meet people who do that, and you may even connect with people on a romantic level as well, depending on what else Saturn is doing in your chart. For example, if Saturn is the ruler of the 7th or the 5th, or even the 8th, then you might meet somebody, or if you have Saturn in your 7th house or even your 5th house, then you might meet somebody at this time who ends up playing prominently, ends up being a partner for you that really is there in the big picture, really is there in the long term. So that certainly is possible for you. But I do think that as I look at this, with Saturn conjunct the North Node, pay attention to your life. See which way the winds are turning, because opportunities are going to show up that are just going to make you go, wow, okay, yes, I see the potential here. I see the opportunity here. So trust that pull, because ultimately that is going to lead you towards building a future for yourself that feels stable, that feels strong, and is likely to last for a really long time. And also, this can be a time when we meet power players, we meet big dogs, we meet big bosses as well, who are going to help us for many years to come to move up that ladder of success as well. And whatever it is that we do in any industry, this really can be a time when We understand what we can do more of. And this is why I say it might not be easy, because we see the work that is there to be done, but we also understand that it needs to be done by us. And this is a time when we actually start to do that work, actually start to put things into place that are going to be part of building something, not only that we can be proud of, but moving towards what it is that we were always meant to do.